The sheriff wanted a quiet wife. He had an Apache wife who drove him until dawn. Sheriff Elias Hart was a man who lived his life the same way he ran his town, quietly, carefully, and with a strict sense of order. He was not a man who liked loud voices or sudden changes. He believed that a good life was a life without drama. When he walked down the main street, people felt calm. They knew he was watching, but they also knew he would not cause trouble. He was the kind of sheriff who solved problems before they became problems. Elias was tall and strong, but he rarely showed anger. He had a soft voice and calm eyes. People trusted him because he did not shout or rush. He listened more than he spoke. He did not like surprises. He liked everything to be predictable. That was why he wanted a quiet wife. He had seen what happened when a man married a woman who spoke too loudly or demanded too much attention. The town would gossip, and the man would be embarrassed. Elias wanted a woman who would fit into his world like a piece of a puzzle, perfectly placed, quiet, and unbothered by the noise of other people's opinions. Elias had been a sheriff for many years, and he had watched many women come and go. He had never been married before. He thought it was because he had not yet found the right person. But now he was older, and he wanted someone to share his life with. He wanted someone who would keep their home tidy, respect the rules, and never cause a scene. He did not expect to meet Mara. Mara was an Apache woman who had recently arrived in the county. She had moved from a place far away, and she carried with her a quiet strength that made people feel uneasy without understanding why. She did not look for attention. She did not speak unless she needed to. But when she did speak, her words were clear and honest. Elias first saw her one afternoon at the market. She stood beside a stall that sold blankets and dried food. She wore a simple dress, but her posture was proud. She looked like someone who had faced many hardships and still stood tall. When she noticed Elias, she did not look away. She looked directly at him, as if she was not afraid of his authority. Elias felt something strange in that moment. He felt a small spark of curiosity. He had never met a woman who looked at him like that. He had always been used to women who lowered their eyes and smiled politely. He walked closer to the stall and tried to act casual. "Good afternoon," he said, his voice steady. Mara nodded once. "Good afternoon," she replied. There was something in her voice that sounded like a quiet song. Elias did not know why, but he felt drawn to her. He found himself returning to the market more often, hoping to see her again. He began to talk to the people in the town, asking them about her. But no one knew much. She kept to herself, and she rarely spoke with anyone outside of necessary conversations. One day, Elias saw her helping an old woman carry a basket of food. The old woman smiled at Mara, and Mara smiled back in a gentle way. Elias watched the scene from a distance. He felt something warm in his chest. He liked that she cared for others. He liked that she did not ignore people who needed help. Still, Elias believed that a woman should be quiet. He believed that a good wife should not challenge her husband in public. He believed that a woman should be gentle and that her strength should remain hidden. He thought Mara would be perfect because she was quiet. One evening, Elias found himself walking past the small house where Mara was staying. He had never been invited inside, but he stood outside the door and hesitated. He wondered if he was being foolish. He wondered if he should stop thinking about her at all. But he could not stop. He knocked softly. Mara opened the door. She looked surprised, but she did not seem afraid. She looked at him with calm eyes. "Sheriff," she said, "what brings you here?" Elias swallowed. He tried to keep his voice steady. I wanted to talk. Mara stepped aside, allowing him to enter. The room was simple and clean. There were a few blankets, a small table, and a wooden chair. There was no luxury. It was not a place that showed wealth. It was a place that showed strength and independence. Elias felt uncomfortable inside her home. He was used to the houses of the town, where everything was arranged in perfect order. Mara's home was simple, but it felt alive. It felt real. He cleared his throat. "I want to know more about you," he said. Mara sat on the chair and looked at him calmly. "You can ask," she said. Elias hesitated. He did not know how to start. He had not expected her to be so direct. He had expected her to be shy, or quiet, or afraid. Instead, she was calm and steady. It made him feel small. He began with simple questions. "Where did you come from?" Mara answered without hesitation. "From the mountains, from the desert, from a place where people respect the land." Elias nodded. He tried to imagine it. He had heard stories about the mountains and deserts, but he had never seen them. He had always lived in a town where the land was controlled, measured, and owned. He had never known the feeling of being a part of the land. "Do you have family?" Elias asked. Mara's eyes softened for a moment. "Yes," she said, "but they are far away." Elias felt a small sadness in her voice. He wondered if she was lonely. He wondered if she missed her home. He also wondered if she was the kind of woman who would obey him. He did not ask the next question out loud. He wanted to know if she would fit into his world. He wanted to know if she would be quiet. Mara seemed to sense his thoughts. She looked at him carefully, as if she could read what he was thinking.
"You want a quiet wife?" she said softly.
Elias was startled. He had not said it out loud, but she had said it anyway. He tried to hide his surprise. "I did not say that," he replied. Mara smiled slightly. "You did not need to," she said. Elias felt a strange feeling inside him. He felt embarrassed, as if she had seen through him, but he also felt a strange admiration. He had never met anyone who could understand him so quickly. He decided to be honest. "I want peace," he said. "I want a life without trouble." Mara nodded. "Then you should not marry a woman who brings trouble," she said calmly. Elias felt his face warm. He did not like the way she spoke. It felt like a challenge. But he also felt drawn to her honesty. He felt that she was not pretending. She was not trying to please him. She was not trying to impress anyone. She was simply herself. That night, Elias left her home feeling confused. He could not stop thinking about her. He kept thinking about her calm eyes and quiet voice. He kept thinking about the way she seemed to understand him. He also kept thinking about her warning. You should not marry a woman who brings trouble. Elias did not want trouble. He wanted peace. But he also wanted Mara. Over the next weeks, Elias continued to visit her. They spoke about simple things: food, weather, the land. They spoke about the past and the future. Elias began to feel that Mara was different from any woman he had ever met. She was not quiet because she was weak. She was quiet because she chose to be. Her silence was not empty. It was full of thought and strength. Elias began to understand that her silence was not something he could control. He began to realize that he could not force her to be the kind of wife he imagined. Still, he wanted her. One day he made a decision. He asked her to marry him. Mara did not answer immediately. She looked at him carefully. She did not smile. She did not laugh. She did not cry. She simply looked at him. Finally, she spoke. "I will not promise to be quiet," she said. Elias felt his heart beat faster. He did not know what to say. Mara continued, "But I will promise to be honest. I will promise to be loyal. I will promise to stand by you if you stand by me." Elias nodded slowly. He felt a strange feeling of relief. He realized that he did not want a quiet wife after all. He wanted a real wife, someone who was honest and strong. He took her hand gently. "I will stand by you," he said. Mara's eyes softened. She nodded. The town whispered when they heard the news. A sheriff marrying an Apache woman was unusual. People talked. Some were curious. Some were angry. Some were afraid. But Elias did not care. He believed he could control the situation. He believed he could keep peace. He believed that Mara would be quiet. He did not know that her quiet strength would soon change everything. After the wedding, Sheriff Elias Hart believed that his life would finally become the calm and peaceful existence he had always dreamed of. He thought the biggest challenge was over. He thought the town would now accept his choice and that Mara would settle into the role of a quiet and respectful wife. He was wrong. The wedding was simple. The courthouse was small and only a few people attended. Some of the town's residents looked uncomfortable. Others stared openly, as if they were watching a strange event. Elias felt their eyes on him, but he tried to ignore them. He had made his decision, and he was determined to stand by it. Mara stood beside him, dressed in a plain dress. She did not look nervous. She did not smile. She simply stood there with a calm expression, as if she had already accepted whatever would happen next. She looked like someone who had been through hard times and knew how to keep her balance. Elias watched her closely. He wanted to see the quiet wife he imagined. He wanted to see her lower her eyes and follow his lead. But Mara did not do that. She looked around the room, meeting people's eyes. She did not look afraid. When the ceremony was over, the townspeople slowly walked away. Some whispered, some shook their heads, and some looked at Mara with pity. Elias felt a mix of pride and worry. He wanted to protect Mara from their judgment, but he also wanted to protect his own reputation. He walked with her out of the courthouse, holding her hand gently. Mara did not pull away. She did not act like a woman who was being forced into a life she did not want. She simply walked beside him, calm and steady. That night, they returned to their home. It was a small house on the edge of town where Elias had lived alone for many years. It was quiet and clean. It had a small garden, a simple kitchen, and a porch that looked out over the town. Elias had chosen the house because it felt safe. He thought it would be a peaceful place for his new wife. But Mara did not seem interested in safety. She seemed interested in life. The first weeks of their marriage were quiet, but not peaceful. Elias tried to control everything. He decided what Mara should wear, what she should eat, and how she should spend her time. He believed he was helping her. He believed he was protecting her from the town's judgment. Mara accepted his decisions, but not happily. She did not complain, but Elias could feel her silent resistance. She did not like being controlled. She had come from a place where people lived freely. She had come from a culture where women were respected for their strength and their wisdom. Here, she felt like a guest in a world that did not understand her. Elias did not understand why she was unhappy. He thought she was being ungrateful. He thought she should be thankful for the comfort and safety he provided. One evening, Elias sat at the kitchen table, reading paperwork. Mara was quietly working on a small basket. The room was quiet except for the sound of the wind outside. Elias looked up and watched her hands. She moved with skill and care. She was not slow. She was focused. Elias cleared his throat. "Mara," he said softly. She looked up.
Yes?
Elias tried to sound calm. "Do you like your life here?" Mara paused. She looked at him for a moment before answering. "I like peace," she said. "But peace is not the same as being quiet." Elias felt his chest tighten. He did not know how to respond. He had never heard such words from a woman before. He had always expected women to agree with him, to accept his decisions, and to remain silent. He tried to change the subject. "The town needs order," he said. "I need you to help me keep that order." Mara nodded slowly. "I will help," she said, "but not by hiding who I am." Elias felt a sudden anger rise inside him. He did not like the way she spoke. It felt like she was challenging him. It felt like she was refusing to follow his rules. He stood up quickly. "You need to understand your place," he said. Mara did not move. He continued working on the basket. "I understand my place," she said quietly. "My place is beside you, not behind you." Elias stared at her. He had never been spoken to like that. He had never met a woman who did not fear him. He felt his pride hurt. He wanted to show her that he was in charge. He wanted to show her that he was the sheriff and that she should obey him. But he also felt something else, something he did not want to admit. He felt respect. Mara's strength was not loud. It was not dramatic. It was simply there. It was calm and steady, like the river that never stops moving. Elias decided to change his approach. He stopped trying to control her. He tried to be patient. He tried to understand her, but the town made it difficult. People began to speak more openly about the sheriff's marriage. Some of the women avoided Mara. Some of the men stared at her. Some of the children whispered and pointed. Elias could feel the tension in the town growing. One day, a group of men gathered at the general store. They talked loudly about the sheriff's wife. Elias walked in and heard their words. "She's not one of us," one man said. "She doesn't belong here," another replied. "She'll bring trouble," a third man said. Elias felt a sharp pain in his chest. He wanted to defend Mara, but he also wanted to protect his own reputation. He did not want to create more conflict. He wanted peace. He stepped forward. "She is my wife," he said firmly. The men stopped talking. They looked at him. They could see that he was serious. Elias's voice was calm, but there was a strength in it that made them stop. "Then you will have to accept her," Elias continued. The men nodded slowly. They did not like it, but they respected him. After that day, the town's attitude did not change completely. People still whispered, but they stopped speaking openly in front of Elias. Still, Mara felt the tension. She felt the silent judgments. She felt the way people looked at her like she did not belong. One afternoon, she walked to the river alone. She needed a place to think. She sat on a large rock and watched the water flow. She thought about her family and her past. She thought about the life she had left behind. She thought about Elias. She did not hate him. She did not feel angry at him. She simply felt misunderstood. She felt that he was trying to put her into a box. She felt that he wanted her to be someone she was not. She sighed quietly. She knew that she had to adapt to this new life. She knew that she had to learn the rules of the town, but she also knew that she could not lose herself. She stood up and walked back to the house. She decided she would not be silent anymore. She decided she would not hide her thoughts. That night, when Elias returned home, Mara was waiting for him at the table. She had prepared a simple meal. The room smelled of fresh bread and herbs. Elias sat down. He looked at her carefully. "Mara," he said, "I want you to be happy." Mara looked at him and smiled softly. "I want that too," she said. Elias nodded slowly. "Then we must find a way to live together," he said. Mara's eyes softened. "Yes," she said, "but you must understand that I cannot be quiet forever." Elias felt his heart beat faster. He was not sure what to say. He had always wanted a quiet life. But now he realized that the quiet life he wanted was not the same as the life Mara needed. He looked at her and saw her strength. He saw her honesty. He saw her courage. He realized that he could not control her. He realized that he needed to trust her. He reached out and held her hand. "I will try," he said softly. Mara squeezed his hand gently. "That is all I ask," she said. The night was calm, but inside Elias's mind a storm was beginning. He did not know how to handle a wife who was not quiet. He did not know how to live with a woman who had her own spirit. But he knew one thing. He was falling in love with her. And he knew that their life together would not be quiet. The first months of Elias and Mara's marriage were full of quiet tension. Elias was learning that marriage was not a job where he could control everything. Mara was learning that the town did not easily accept someone who was different. Both of them were trying, but the world around them kept pushing back. Elias had hoped that once the town saw Mara's good heart, they would accept her. He believed that kindness could change people, but he was wrong. People did not change easily. They held on to their beliefs, and they used the smallest things as proof of what they already thought. Mara continued to help people in her own quiet way. She visited the elderly in town, bringing them warm soup and clean blankets. She helped a young boy who was sick, and she sat with him until he felt better. She taught the children how to make simple crafts. She even helped the town's women with small tasks around their homes. All of this was done without seeking praise. She did not want attention. She simply wanted to help, but the town still whispered. Some people believed that Mara was trying to take their place. Some believed she was trying to change the town. Some believed she was dangerous simply because she was different. They did not understand her, and they were afraid of what they did not understand. Elias felt frustrated. He wanted to protect her, but he also felt angry that the town did not accept her. He wanted to tell them to stop. He wanted to force them to respect her. But he knew that force would only make things worse. One day, Elias came home to find Mara standing in the kitchen, looking tired. Her hands were dirty and her face looked worn. She had been helping a family outside of town who had no food and no clean water. Elias watched her quietly. "Mara," he said softly, "you should not be doing this alone." Mara turned to him. "I can handle it," she said. Elias shook his head. "No," he replied. "You don't have to do everything alone. I can help." Mara looked at him carefully. She saw the concern in his eyes. She saw the love in his voice. She also saw his fear. He was afraid that she would be hurt. He was afraid that the town would judge him for her actions. Mara stepped closer and placed her hand on his arm. "I am not a child," she said. "I can handle myself." Elias felt a mix of emotions. He was proud of her strength, but he also felt helpless. He wanted to keep her safe. He wanted to keep her close. He decided to join her. The next day, Elias rode with Mara outside the town to the small family she had been helping. The family lived in a simple cabin near the woods. They had little food and no clean water. Mara had been bringing them supplies from the town, and she had been teaching them how to make a small garden. Elias watched Mara speak with the family. She spoke calmly and gently. The family listened with respect. Elias felt a strange feeling inside him. He realized that Mara was not only strong, she was wise. She knew how to connect with people. She knew how to make them feel safe. He also realized something else. Mara was not trying to change the town. She was trying to help people who needed help. When they returned to town, Elias saw something he had not seen before. People were watching them. Some of the women looked angry. Some of the men looked suspicious. Some of the children looked curious. Elias could feel the eyes on them, and he felt uncomfortable. But Mara seemed calm. She did not care what people thought. She did what she believed was right. That night, Elias sat with Mara on the porch. The sky was clear and the stars were bright. The wind was gentle. Elias felt a calm feeling in his heart, but he also felt a growing worry. "Mara," he said, "I am proud of you, but I am also scared." Mara looked at him. "Scared of what?" she asked. Elias sighed. "Scared that the town will not accept you. Scared that they will make things difficult for us. Scared that they will hurt you." Mara smiled softly. "They already look at me differently," she said. "But I will not let their fear control me." Elias stared at her. He felt the weight of her words. He knew she was right. He knew he could not let other people decide how she should live. But he also knew that he had a duty as sheriff. He had a duty to keep the town safe and peaceful. One day, a problem appeared that Elias could not ignore. A group of men had begun to cause trouble in the town. They were not violent, but they were loud. They spoke harshly to people and made others feel uncomfortable. They were the kind of men who used their words to control others. They spoke about the sheriff's wife in a way that made the town feel tense. Elias had tried to handle the situation quietly. He had warned the men to stop. He had asked them to be respectful, but they did not listen. They continued to speak in a way that made the town feel uneasy. Elias knew that he needed to act. He could not allow the town to become a place of fear. He decided to talk to the men directly. He found them at the general store, laughing and speaking loudly. Elias walked up to them and spoke calmly. "Gentlemen," he said, "you are causing trouble." One of the men laughed. "We are just talking," he said. "It is a free town." Elias nodded. "Yes," he replied. "But your words are hurting people." "You must stop." The men looked at each other. They did not like being told what to do. They were used to being able to say whatever they wanted. Elias continued, "I am the sheriff. I will not allow disrespect in my town." The men fell silent. Elias could see the anger in their eyes. He could feel the tension rising. But then Mara stepped forward. She did not speak loudly. She did not shout. She simply stood beside Elias, calm and steady. The men looked at her. They expected her to be quiet. They expected her to lower her eyes. They expected her to be afraid. Instead, she looked at them calmly and said, "You are hurting people with your words. That is not right." The men were surprised. They did not know how to respond. They were not used to a woman speaking like that. Elias watched them carefully. He felt proud of her. He also felt a strange feeling of relief. He realized that he did not have to handle everything alone. He had a partner. The men did not speak again. They left the store quietly. Elias turned to Mara. "Thank you," he said. Mara smiled softly. "You do not need to thank me," she said. "You need to trust me." Elias nodded slowly. He realized that she was right. From that day, the town began to change slowly. People still whispered, but they also began to notice Mara's kindness. They began to see that she was not a threat. They began to see that she was simply a woman who wanted to help others. Elias began to feel more confident. He began to understand that marriage was not about control. It was about trust. It was about understanding. But the road was not easy. Mara's actions began to attract attention beyond the town. Some people in the neighboring areas started to talk about her. They were curious. They were suspicious. They wanted to know why the sheriff's wife was helping people. Elias felt the pressure growing. He knew that if the town did not accept Mara, their marriage could become difficult. He knew that he had to support her, but he also had to keep peace. One night, Elias sat alone in his office, thinking about everything that had happened. He thought about the men who had caused trouble. He thought about Mara's strength. He thought about the town's fear. He realized something that made him feel both proud and afraid. He realized that Mara was not only his wife, she was a leader, and leaders did not always make life easy. Elias closed his eyes and sighed. He knew that the next challenge would be even harder. He knew that the town would not accept change easily. He knew that Mara would continue to be herself, no matter what. He opened his eyes and looked at the door. He saw the path of light from the moon shining on the ground. He knew that the night would be long, but he also knew that he was not alone. Mara was beside him, and that was something he could not ignore. The town was quiet, but the tension was growing. Elias could feel it every day. People were still whispering about Mara. Some looked at her with fear. Some looked at her with curiosity. Some looked at her with anger. But the worst part was that Elias could feel the weight of the town on his shoulders. He was the sheriff, and he had to keep peace. He was also a husband, and he had to protect his wife. Mara knew that the town was watching her. She felt their eyes on her every time she walked down the street. She felt the whispers, even when she could not hear them. She felt the judgment, even when people pretended to be polite. But she did not stop helping people. She did not stop being herself. One night, a strong storm began to build. The sky turned dark, and the wind grew louder. The townspeople began to close their doors and windows. They pulled their curtains tight and stayed inside. The storm felt like a warning. It felt like something was about to happen. Elias was at the office, finishing paperwork. He heard the wind outside and looked up. He could see the clouds moving quickly. He felt a strange feeling in his chest. He could not explain it, but he felt that something was wrong. He stood up and walked outside. The air was cold and wet. He looked around the town. Everything seemed normal, but the storm was growing stronger. The sky was dark, and the wind was strong enough to move the trees. Elias walked back inside and locked the door. He did not want Mara to go outside in the storm. He wanted to keep her safe. He wanted to keep her close. But Mara was not in the house. He searched the rooms quickly. She was not there. His heart began to beat faster. He felt panic for the first time since he had been sheriff. He felt a fear that he had never felt before. He ran to the porch and looked out into the night. The wind was blowing hard. The rain was falling like a curtain. He could not see far. He could not see anything. "Mara!" he called out loudly. "Mara!" There was no answer. Elias felt his heart sink. He did not know what to do. He did not know where she had gone. He did not know if she was safe. He grabbed his coat and his hat. He mounted his horse and rode into the storm. The wind was strong enough to push him back. The rain hit his face. His horse moved carefully, as if it was afraid of the storm. Elias rode quickly, following the road that led outside of town. He did not know where Mara was. He did not know what he would find. He only knew that he had to find her. The storm grew stronger. The road became muddy and slippery. Elias held tightly to the reins. He rode faster, his heart beating like a drum. After a while, he saw a faint light in the distance. It looked like a small lantern. He rode toward it, hoping it was Mara. The light grew brighter, and he could see a small cabin near the woods. He rode closer and saw Mara standing outside the cabin. She was holding a lantern in her hand. She was wet from the rain. Her hair was dark and messy, but she stood strong, like a tree that does not fall in the wind. Elias stopped his horse and rode up to her. He felt a wave of relief. He was about to speak, but Mara did not look at him. She looked toward the woods. "What are you doing here?" Elias asked, his voice shaking. Mara turned to him. Her face was calm, but her eyes were serious. "There is a family in the woods," she said. "They needed help." Elias stared at her. "In this storm?" he asked. Mara nodded. "Yes," she said. "They had no shelter. They had no food. They needed help. I could not leave them." Elias felt a mix of emotions. He felt proud of her, but he also felt angry. Wanted to be angry. He wanted to say that she was foolish. He wanted to say that she was not thinking clearly. He wanted to say that she was risking her life. But he could not. He could not ignore the truth. Mara was right. She could not leave people in need. Elias stepped down from his horse and walked toward her. The wind was strong and the rain was heavy. He felt the cold through his clothes, but he did not care. He only cared about Mara. "Come inside," he said. Mara shook her head. "Not yet," she said. "I need to help them first." Elias looked toward the woods. He could see the trees moving in the wind. He could hear the sound of something moving. He could not see clearly, but he felt that someone was there. He looked at Mara and saw her determination. He saw her strength. He saw her courage. He realized that she was not afraid of the storm. She was afraid of leaving people behind. He nodded slowly. "I will help," he said. Mara's eyes softened. "Thank you," she said. They walked together into the woods. The rain hit their faces. The wind blew hard. The trees moved like giants in the storm. After a short walk, they found the family. They were a mother and 2 children. They were sitting inside a small shelter made of wood and cloth. The shelter was weak and small. The children looked cold and scared. The mother looked worried. When the family saw Elias and Mara, they looked relieved. They had been waiting for help. The mother stood up and greeted them with a shaky voice. "Thank you," she said. "We didn't know if anyone would come." Mara stepped forward and handed the mother some blankets. Elias gave them some food and water. They helped the family move to the cabin near the road. The cabin was small, but it was dry and warm. Mara and Elias worked together to make the family comfortable. Mara spoke softly to the children, trying to calm them. Elias helped the mother prepare a simple meal. They worked quickly as the storm continued to rage outside. After a while, the family settled inside the cabin. The children were tired and sleepy. The mother looked grateful. Elias looked at Mara. He could see the exhaustion in her face. He could see the wetness of her clothes. He could see that she had risked her own comfort to help others. He felt a deep respect for her. "Mara," he said softly, "you did the right thing." Mara nodded. "I had to." she said. They needed help. Elias looked out the window. The storm was still strong. The wind was loud, the rain was heavy, but inside the cabin there was a quiet warmth. Elias realized that the storm outside was like the storm inside his own life. He had been trying to control everything. He had been trying to keep peace by avoiding problems. But Mara had shown him that peace was not the absence of trouble. Peace was the ability to face trouble with strength and kindness. He sat down beside Mara and took her hand. She looked at him and smiled gently. The smile was small, but it carried a deep meaning. It was a smile of understanding. Elias felt his heart change. He realized that he had been wrong about what he wanted. He had wanted a quiet life, but now he understood that life was not quiet. Life was full of storms, and a strong partner was someone who stood beside you in those storms. The night passed slowly. The storm continued, but inside the cabin there was a sense of peace. Elias and Mara stayed with the family until the morning. They made sure the family had food and warmth. They stayed until the children fell asleep. When the storm finally ended, the sky began to clear. The sun rose slowly and the town began to wake up. The roads were muddy, but the air felt fresh. Elias and Mara returned to their home. They were tired and wet, but they felt a new sense of closeness. They had faced the storm together. They had helped people together. They had proven something to each other. Elias looked at Mara and realized that she was not just his wife. She was his partner. She was his equal. He understood that he could not control her. He understood that he did not need to control her. He understood that her strength was not a problem. It was a gift. As the sun rose higher, Elias felt a quiet peace in his heart. He knew that their life would continue to be difficult. The town would still judge them. People would still whisper. But Elias now understood something important. He understood that love was not about having a quiet wife. Love was about standing together, even when the night was dark and the storm was loud. The storm had passed, and the town slowly returned to its usual rhythm. The streets were muddy, the air smelled fresh, and the sun warmed the earth. People came out of their homes and began cleaning the mess left behind by the wind and rain. The world looked calm again. But Elias knew that the storm had changed something inside him. It had changed the way he saw Mara. It had changed the way he saw himself. It had changed the way he understood peace. He had always believed that peace meant quiet. He had always believed that a good life was a life without problems. He had believed that his job as sheriff was to keep the town calm and controlled. He had believed that a wife should be quiet and obedient. But the storm had shown him something different. Peace was not the absence of trouble. Peace was the ability to face trouble with courage and kindness. Peace was the ability to stand beside someone when the night was dark and the wind was strong. Elias walked into their home and found Mara sitting at the table. She was cleaning a small basket she had made. She looked calm and focused. She looked like a woman who had found her balance. Elias sat across from her. He watched her hands move. He felt a warm feeling in his heart. He felt proud of her. He felt grateful for her. "Mara," he said softly, "I want to thank you." Mara looked up. She smiled gently. "For what?" she asked. Elias took a deep breath. He chose his words carefully. "For teaching me what peace really means," he said. "For showing me that strength is not a problem, it is a gift." Mara's eyes softened. "You did not need to learn it alone," she said. "You could have asked me sooner." Elias smiled. "I did not know how," he admitted. Mara nodded. Then you have learned, she said. Elias felt a sudden wave of emotion. He realized that he was not just learning about peace. He was learning about love. He had always believed that love was quiet. He had always believed that love was calm. But now he understood that love could also be loud in its own way. Love could be strong. Love could be brave. Love could be honest. He reached out and took Mara's hand. He held it gently but firmly. He looked into her eyes. "Mara," he said, "I know the town still whispers. I know they still judge you. But I want you to know that I will always stand beside you." Mara's eyes filled with a quiet emotion. She looked at him carefully. She saw the sincerity in his voice. She saw the change in his heart. "I know," she said softly, "and I will stand beside you too." Elias nodded. He felt a calm feeling inside him. He felt like the storm had passed not only outside, but inside his heart. In the following days, the town began to change slowly. The people who had once whispered began to see Mara in a new light. They saw her kindness. They saw her strength. They saw the way she helped people without asking for anything in return. Some people still did not accept her. Some still looked at her with fear, but their voices grew quieter. They began to understand that she was not a threat. She was a person. The town began to respect Elias more because of Mara. They saw that he was not afraid of his own wife. They saw that he respected her. They saw that he trusted her. And they began to respect him more because of that. Elias realized that his role as sheriff was not only to keep order, it was also to protect people like Mara from the unfair judgment of others. He realized that his duty was to support justice, not just control. One day, a woman in town approached Mara. She was a young woman who had been quiet and shy since Mara arrived. She looked nervous, but she also looked determined. "Mara," the woman said softly, "I want to thank you." Mara looked at her with surprise. "For what?" she asked. The woman took a deep breath. "For helping my family," she said. "For showing me that it is okay to be strong. For showing me that I do not need to hide who I am." Mara smiled gently. She placed her hand on the woman's shoulder. "You are welcome," she said. Elias watched from a distance. He felt a warm feeling in his heart. He realized that Mara was not only changing the town, she was changing the people. He walked toward them. "You are doing good," he said to Mara. Mara looked at him. "So are you?" she replied. Elias smiled. He felt a sense of peace that he had never felt before. It was not the quiet peace he had wanted before. It was a deeper peace. A peace that came from understanding and trust. That night, Elias and Mara sat on the porch and watched the stars. The air was cool, and the town was calm. The moon shone brightly. The world looked peaceful. Elias looked at Mara and thought about how much his life had changed. He thought about the time when he had wanted a quiet wife. He thought about the time when he had tried to control everything. He thought about the time when he had believed that peace meant silence. Now he knew the truth. Peace did not mean silence. Peace meant honesty. Peace meant trust. Peace meant standing together. He turned to Mara and spoke softly. "I used to think I wanted a quiet life," he said. Mara looked at him. "And now?" she asked. Elias smiled. "Now I want a real life," he said. "A life with you. A life with all its storms and all its beauty." Mara's eyes shined with emotion. She leaned closer to him. She placed her head on his shoulder. They sat quietly, not because they were afraid of noise, but because they were comfortable with each other. The night was quiet, but it was not empty. It was full of love. Elias had finally learned that his wife was not a problem to control. She was a partner to cherish. And the town had finally learned that strength and kindness could live together. The sheriff's life was no longer quiet, but it was real. And that was better than anything he had ever imagined.